Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode, How Being in a Sexless Marriage Affects Men. This is part 2, and we're going to be talking about the emotional strain and loneliness and how that makes a big impact on you personally, and also how it makes an impact on changing things from a sexless relationship standpoint. Yesterday, we talked about self-worth and masculinity. And when I say masculinity, I'm talking about how we communicate sexual desire and how that can be impacted by the fact that if you don't have a good sense of self-worth, it then conveys sexuality in a way that is devaluing in terms of, it devalues your sexuality, and that will then erode your self-esteem. As it erodes your self-esteem, you become unattractive, and therefore you end up in this vicious cycle where you're pretty much being rejected consistently. So we're going to go diving deeper. When you are being rejected consistently, what tends to happen is that you start feeling an emotional strain, because all of a sudden there's this thing which is incredibly important to you to function in terms of just the connection. When I explained this to my wife, I was saying that the desire and seeking of connection, yes, we do get to have a sexual release, which is important, but at the same time, it's the connection side of things, and that's why we're driven to doing it. And when that person you love is not capable of giving that to you, and there's nobody else in the world that would want to receive it from, it becomes an extremely painful process. So, and it's no different to you telling me that you love me, but really stabbing me in the back. And I know that's not her intentions, but because she has to deal with her own sexual discomfort. But generally, that's how it feels, that you're pretty much stabbing me in the back, that with everything that I love and want to give and want to share, I can do that for you so you can feel a sense of connection. But at the same time, when it comes to you approaching me and giving me what I need, you're not capable of doing so. And when that is happening continuously, it can really take a massive emotional toll on the person. And that emotional toll can then bleed into other areas of your life. And generally, the biggest one that it bleeds into is decision making. And that decision making becomes, again, because you're in such a horrible place, your decision making becomes supplication. What that means is that you make decisions based off of how do I appease this woman in order to then get what I want, which puts you in a very horrible place, because now instead of leading her, you're now hoping that she takes the lead in order for you then by proxy then give you sex, which is a very illogical way of looking at it, but really a terrible way of trying to fix a sexless relationship, because at times it might work, but generally over a long period of time it will make you look as though you're weak as a leader, and then she won't want to follow you, and over a period of time it will compound on the fact that you're not having sex, and it will continue you guys not having sex. So again, it becomes very, very important to understand that really the emotional strain, one of the biggest things that it does affect is your decision making, and decision making is everything when it comes to turning a sexless relationship. If you do not allow yourself to make good decisions, or at least for her to see you making good decisions that are of leadership, the ones that are collaborative, the ones that are of protecting the family, the ones that are of resilience, all those things, if you cannot demonstrate that, all of a sudden you find yourself in a place where you are in this virtual cycle where you're trying to please her, and every decision that you're making is towards trying to get this thing that you lack desperately. So again, it's this emotional strain when it affects the decision making. Again, one of the things that it then comes out of all of that is that you start feeling really, really, really lonely with this. It can really start causing stress, anxiety, and depression. And again, it starts isolating you into a place where you feel you're the only person in the world that's not getting any connection. Because again, some people have sort of hacked this and then decided to have a side chick or gone to see prostitutes or whatever to try and get that connection from somewhere else. But then again, after all of that, usually because you're not getting that connection from the person that you love, all of a sudden it becomes really, really isolating and really can amplify some of those negative feelings that you feel. And again, everybody's got capability of feeling depression, anxiety, feeling loneliness. All of those, we're all capable of doing this. And to a certain extent, is probably important because then it helps you to value when you feel connected and when you feel part of something. Again, all those things. So some of those emotions, while we look at them as bad, and again, being depressed or feeling anxiety, those are important feelings that we need to feel in order to indicate what's going on from a mental perspective. So for example, you get anxiety when you got a lot of decisions that you need to make, but making one, so anxiety goes up. When you consistently make bad decisions and then you feel like a failure, generally that's when you start falling into depression. So it comes back down then to your decision making. It becomes very important, and again, in order to control that, you need to control your emotional state. And really the emotional state is, I'm really going pretty quickly with this one, so bear with me, guys. So your emotional state is very important. So, and really within our community, we teach that most men should operate off what we call a neutral state, because whenever you are extremely excitable or extremely sad, that generally communicates lack of value, and therefore she won't want to have sex with you. So again, you're probably wondering, why is being completely excitable a bad thing? Again, when you do, it's hard to maintain that. It's hard because you might fluctuate between that and neutral state, and again, that consistency, especially when you're changing sexless relationship, becomes very important. Again, when you're in neutral state, it is a sign of a true leader that if something really amazing happens, you not getting incredibly excitable about it is a sign to say, yeah, of course it should be happening because you're with me. So therefore, one day we were at a restaurant and then somebody paid for our dinner. And everybody was shocked and they were amazed and they were like excited. And I was just neutral. And I was like, yeah, I expect it. I do good things for people all the time. And somebody's going to do something good for me. I mean, when I see somebody begging, usually I will actually go to a cash point and put my card in and get cash out and give them. So I do good things for people. So I just expect good things to happen. So while everybody else was like, oh my God, I can't believe that somebody's paid our bill at the restaurant and I think we'd eaten it's close to about £200 at the time. And the person paid for us. I was like, oh my God. Everybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. But for me, I was like, yeah, I've just expected to happen to me because I'm a very lucky guy. And my sister-in-law was like, I can't believe how you actually... It's like, yeah, I expect to be lucky every single time. Just not lucky to win the lottery, but to generally, I'm always lucky. And that's what I mean by neutral state, that most people would go incredibly excited about the whole thing, but I remained neutral. And like I said, it's when it comes from an emotional standpoint, those are the emotions that you're trying to do. And now it comes back down, then how do you then maintain that sort of emotion? Generally, it comes back down to your inputs. So this is what we call inputs, and these are daily activities that you do. So you do daily activities that will give you the most likely type of emotions to feel, or at least be in a certain emotional state. So for example, personally, I like to listen to comedy is one thing that I will do. So I will listen to comedy, and I know some of you guys are just listening to podcasts, reading books, and you can get all consuming. And again, while you are trying to fix a relationship, doing a lot of that without any balance can actually compound the problem. So all of a sudden you find yourself really getting even more lonely, because now all of a sudden you're open to what is possible, and you probably don't really know how to act on some of that information, and therefore, or when you do act on that information, it backfires. Because then again, a lot of it, when it comes to changing a sexless relationship, and I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but I'm just quick firing a lot of things around emotional state and emotional strain. is that, again, when it comes to actually changing a sexless relationship, most people, they do sort of one-hit wonders. So they find a strategy, they do it once, it fails, and then they just sort of move on. And again, from when you do this several times, all of a sudden it will compound on your emotional state, as in not capable of changing stuff, and then therefore it goes back into that self-worth stuff that we're talking about earlier, that your self-worth starts taking a massive hit, because all of a sudden you see people that that have managed to change a sexless relationship, but when it comes to you find it very difficult, because again, when it comes to changing a sexless relationship, for example, if I give you a strategy, I expect you to execute that strategy at least 30 times before you decide, okay, this strategy is not for me. And this is, again, becomes back to the expectation of the person with low libido within the relationship. We expect them to then get turned on and then be turned on frequently. As an expectation, that's a really bad expectation. You want them to be turned on, and then when you do have sex, you then work through some of that sexual discomfort that they have, and just know that it's going to be a long journey to do so. And that requires you to be persistent and disciplined to do the same thing, even though you're not quite getting the result. And I think most people look at the result and say, okay, because it hasn't worked, then therefore it doesn't work. But generally, some of that stuff that you need to do in terms of changing the sexless relationship is also to gather data on, okay, when I've tried this is what has happened as an effect, and then really trying to get better at delivering that strategy or that tactics that you're doing. So I've covered quite a lot of things in terms of the tactics of what you need to do, how you can keep a mental good state, and why it's important to have a neutral state within a relationship, especially from an emotional standpoint, why emotions are really good because it affects the decision making. And also the other bits that when you don't fix your emotional state and have good your emotional state, it can lead you into these feelings of loneliness and depression and anxiety, and how those, again, they're very important signals to tell you that, especially anxiety. Like I said, anxiety is a very signal that you are not you're not prioritizing any of decisions that you need to be making. You know that there's decisions that need to be made. So generally, what I do in terms of anxiety, I start thinking about what is a priority, on what's the thing that's going to drop the dominoes, or what is the priority amongst the decisions that I'm trying to make. When I do so, all of a sudden it's by categorizing all those decisions that I need to make, I tend to see that anxiety dissipating. And then when I see that I'm getting depressed, it means that I'm under strain, because I'm just really not taking any action on those decisions that I've made. So by doing so, I start figuring out how to make those actions count, even if it means that by taking the action. Generally, what depression happens when you need to take an action and you know that action is going to cause friction or a level of discomfort, or it's out of your comfort zone. So therefore, we don't do that action, but that action starts impacting how we think and how we feel and so on. So there's a lot that's been unpacked in just this one little lesson, but hopefully it's something that is going to give you a better picture of the effects of sexless relationship within a marriage for men, especially. There's a lot of things that are going on, and really just some of the strategies that you can employ in order to start actually turning the tide on your mental real estate. Because again, your mental real estate right now is all covered by sexless, and you need to start really regaining some of that pieces of property, so you can actually start owning you first, and then when you do so, you can actually start demonstrating yourself as a leader in a much more impactful way. So thank you very much, guys. Hopefully this has been extremely helpful. In the description, there's information on how you can get a lesson, which gives you 3 things that you can do in order to change your sexless relationship right now. And those 3 things are extremely powerful, things that you probably have never heard being taught. As you can see, some of the information that we teach is extremely different, and highly impactful. We helped 239 men in 2023. So that's why our stuff is really, really, really powerful. If you've got any questions, write in the comments on the YouTube. If you are listening from a different device, you can go and find us on Instagram, Thriving_Tribesmen, and then you can ask any question through that as well. So thank you very much, guys. I'll be seeing you soon. Take care.